All right, it's the Android Please podcast, and I'm David Ruddick.
I'm Ryan Whitwam.
I'm Cody Toombs.
I'm Corbin Davenport.
And I'm Ryan Hager.
And this week's podcast is brought to you by nobody. I'm just kidding. Don't skip ahead 30 seconds because you're going to get right into the middle of when we're talking, and it's going to be very annoying. This week on the show, Galaxy S10 is probably the biggest thing we can talk about this week. Obviously, reviews have gone up. Some of us on the team have one now. Actually, it's mostly the video people, and none of them are here. But Ryan and I both have Galaxy S10.
So does Ryan.
Ryan's part of the club now, too. Okay, guys, the club's not cool anymore.
We're the cool kids.
Boy, I wish I could say that's the first time that happened to me.
So I've been using it for like almost 3 weeks now. And I'm not going back to the Pixel 3, I don't think, because it's just the screen is so nice. The battery life is so good.
Yeah.
And there are some issues with it, certainly, like the fact that it is the slipperiest mofo phone on the planet. And I don't mean in your hand. I mean, if you set it down on something, that phone is falling off, no matter what.
Okay, so I've just been using the Nokia 9. That phone is slipperier because the cameras are all underneath the back glass, so there's nothing like interrupting the smoothness. This at least has a little lip for the camera, so it kind of, it stays sort of, maybe sometimes.
I think the lip actually makes it go at an angle, so it wants to slide.
I feel like that's not how physics works.
I think that's how it works, and I happen to know very little about physics, actually. So maybe it doesn't.
If you put a wedge on the ground, it's not like it's going to start sliding around on its own.
I don't know, man. Like,
but look, it is a slippery glass phone.
It's slippery. Yeah. It's very slippery, especially if you put it screen down, which I do all the time with my phones because I'm a monster.
It's too light.
Well, that's the only way that you can use the wireless power share feature is to lay your phone down with the screen facing down, which is pretty weird.
I think I would not say it's light. I would say that it's so big that the dispersion of the weight is like so even and concentrated. It just makes it feel less dense.
That could be it, but it's so light in your hands that you're like, I'm gonna drop this. It's gonna go flying.
Because the S10e, which I also have, actually feels heavier in a way because it's more dense. Even though the battery's way smaller and the screen's way smaller, there's more gram per like cubic millimeter, I guess would be like how you would put it.
I mean, how big is the screen on that though? It's still like 5.8, isn't it?
Hold on, let me just pull up and I can show you on the screen that everybody's watching. Oh God, I can't unlock the screen. Oh wait, that's because it needs a actual thumbprint and not the. Oh dang it!
This is all proof we do this live.
It is. It's very. God, it's terrible. So you can see it's actually a pretty significant difference. Like this one is much smaller.
But the S10 is huge.
Yeah.
It's kind of misleading.
It's 5.8 inches, which like we're calling that a small screen is kind of misleading because it is still objectively pretty big.
And it's bigger than the next. That's almost the size of the Nexus 6's screen, right?
It's basically the size of an iPhone X. Like it's not much bigger than an iPhone X.
It's between the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 3 XL.
Yeah, it's definitely a little bigger than the Pixel 3, but I think the iPhone X is bigger than the Pixel 3. So that makes sense. So, the thing I like about the E is the fingerprint scanner is on the side and it works and it's very reliable and it's very fast and it's great. And the in-display one on the S10 sucks. Yeah. It's real bad. Real just total. I don't want to say junk, but I do want to say junk. It is junk.
So before the show, Ryan and I were playing back and forth with. I've got my S9 and my S10.
I had a Note 9.
Yeah, he wasn't able to reproduce this, but for me, the S10 is like a quarter the speed. It takes a quarter of the time to unlock compared to the S10 Plus.
So my S10 Plus is about the same speed as the Note 9 sensor for me.
Interesting. I noticed that
Samsung has bad like rear-facing sensors though compared to everybody else.
They do. That's true. Just because of the positioning, it's quite awkward. But I will say that my S10 Pluses, it can be fast if the screen wakes up before my finger goes on the scanner. So if I pull out in my pocket and the screen wakes up from lift to wake, then it's relatively fast, assuming I actually get the read right, which if I'm walking around in direct sunlight is never. It always misses the first time because I still feel like If you press too hard, it doesn't work. If you press too light and let go too fast, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
You have to have exactly the right amount of pressure and be holding it for just long enough. And then it still takes forever to actually acknowledge that you did it because the screen doesn't acknowledge that you're touching it. It only acknowledges a failed read, which to me is terrible UX for the haptics.
You
Like,
have
it
no
should
idea
know-
when it works.
Yeah, it should vibrate like when it like detects your fingerprint.
Yes,
and it doesn't.
exactly. Whoever at Samsung really thought this like flow through is just objectively wrong about how it should work.
And there's no indicator for where to even put your fingerprint unless the screen has turned on. And sometimes it doesn't.
So
Even then,
that's why-
it's
so, like-
impossible to see.
Yeah.
So like I've been leaving. I don't usually use ambient display or whatever Samsung calls it. Like I don't usually leave that on all the time. But I've been leaving it. I've been setting it to on because like you at least still get the little fingerprint shape on it. But yeah, it is very dim compared to like the lock screen even.
And also the target area for the fingerprint scanner, I believe, is so. Ryan, you might notice this. It's something that will make you very excited. If you hold up the S10 Plus to direct sunlight, you can see the scanner inside the display. It's skewed to the left.
So it's not. It is not skewed to the left. You are wrong. There's
Really?
a gap on one side for the cable. So the cutout is unsymmetrical, but it's in the middle of the screen.
Okay. Still, it's a tiny little sensor. And
Yeah,
like
it is.
trying to
It's
hit
like this big.
it's itty bitty, and trying to get it on center, like everybody's like, it works totally fine. You just have to hit the area right, and you have to like, you should have it laying flat on a table. And it's like, no, I want to just be able to do like I've done for literally like 5 years and pull my phone out of my pocket and then lock it with my finger the first time.
Yeah.
And this pretty much defeats the whole purpose of that.
And that's only the first problem, really.
Yeah, I just want to say for the record that under-screen fingerprint sensors were a mistake.
They were.
All of them are terrible.
They're all bad. Every single one.
There's just
I
no
want
benefit.
them on the back.
You don't
Yeah.
get anything for having it.
It's worse.
But
I want my
sexier, Ryan.
5T
It's
sensor
sexy,
back.
sexy technology.
You can't see it. It's on the back either way.
That's
You don't
what
know
makes
it's
it so
there.
sexy. You don't even know it's there. Invisible technology. That's definitely what it is. Like everybody, I think the problem is this. Everybody hyped up the idea for like a year. And all the phone manufacturers like they're gonna love it.
I feel like it was
talking
more
about
than a year. We've
was
been
several
expecting
years,
this for
maybe.
years.
Yeah, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's so cool, crazy technology. It works under the screen." And phone manufacturers are like, "Yeah, we can do it." And then they did it, and like everybody's like, "Oh no, this actually sucks. Well, that's bad, just bad, not good. Nobody likes this."
I think it's more that everyone just realized how absolutely terrible Face Unlock was, and they were just looking forward to the next thing that was going to replace it.
Give me
depends on
Face
the
ID or give me death.
Yeah, it
I mean,
depends on
ID.
the implementation.
Yeah,
Some of
screw
them are
Face
really
ID.
well done.
I really don't want Face ID to be all that we have, but I feel like that's where we're heading.
Yes,
No.
yes.
No.
Oh,
with
under-screen fingerprint readers are one
No, it's
generation,
like- it's
a
like
generation
learning-
and a half in.
Face ID.
They'll
is
get
like,
better.
Face ID is like learning to ride your bicycle with no hands. Sure, you may fall down and like, screw up your face or something, but it's pretty cool to be able to do other stuff while you're riding your bike.
I mean, coincidentally, if that happens to you, Face ID will not work because your face is screwed up.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I guess that's probably a question to get an answer to. I don't think we've had an opportunity yet, but I just think if you go to Face ID only, that means manufacturers have to make it better and faster in subsequent generations because their hands are tied. And if everybody complains about it, then it'll get better. I don't think in-display fingerprint scanners are going to get appreciably better unless they do the thing where the entire screen is a scanner. And from what I've heard, that is mucho buccos expensivo. Like it is like, because the way it works is you literally cover the screen in fingerprint scanners, just a whole bunch of them. And obviously that ends up costing a lot of money. I don't think that's a good solution. Don't think it makes sense.
How about we just put it on the back again?
Yeah.
That's the
That'd be great.
solution.
Yeah.
Stop doing under-screen
But we
readers.
know that will
Terrible.
never happen. That's a regression. Manufacturers will never allow it.
Oh my god.
Like it's the only thing the LG G8 has going for it is that it has a rear-mounted fingerprint scanner.
And the weird like vein recognition hand.
Yeah,
waving,
That's
whatever.
not good. That's not a good thing. Though.
No, that's worse.
No, but it has Face ID on the G8. It has like actual secure 3D face recognition.
But Android doesn't understand that yet.
It will eventually. Nobody's going to care about it on that phone, but other phones.
Yeah. Well, if LG
Face ID.
updated if LG updated their phones, then they might get excited.
Yeah,
They
But-
should try
haven't,
sending it to the update center.
Yeah.
Have
The
they
G8
released
the G8
Pi
is
for
never
anything?
getting Q.
I think Pi's out for the V40.
I
It's
think
not
in
out.
Korea, right?
Yeah, I'm not sure what the status on that is. I know that they got a 0 out of 10 from JR on his recent update report card. So I don't think it's out in the US.
Yeah,
Which-
that's about what I expect.
Yeah, it's typical LG. It's funny. They were actually kind of quick for like a minute there with I think like the G6 and G7. The updates came out in like December or something for those like two phones. And then
No,
just
the-
not the
the
G7, maybe the G5 and the G6.
Okay. Yeah, I
The
know the
G7
G.
was slow.
It wasn't
Yeah.
the V20 the first third
was.
party nougat phone or whatever.
And I think
Yeah.
it was pretty buggy.
Yeah.
Surprisingly. Real weird. But yeah, I just think that's the fingerprint scanner is the single biggest letdown about the S10. But as letdowns go, it's not a deal breaker. It's just kind of annoying.
It's the biggest letdown, but it's not the only letdown.
I
Zero
agree with
Pro-
that.
Yeah, like
No phone
the
can only have one letdown. It is impossible.
the lock screen blinds me at night sometimes. It's just to not choose the correct brightness.
Yeah,
You're talking, you're like,
ridiculous.
ah!
No, I pulled out the Pixel stand in the middle of the night. I'm like, my eyes!
Exactly. And the
Really does
telephoto
not seem to
camera
get
is
that.
garbage.
Oh yeah, telephoto
It is
camera,
junk.
all conditions, all scenarios is bad. Even when it's bright sunlight and you were taking picture, like it has to be actually using that lens, it sucks. It
Yeah.
just sucks. The processing is super muddy. Everything is very blurry, and then at the same time grainy. Like it's just like what they've done is they've taken the original sensor that they introduced on the Note 8, which was the first one they introduced with the telephoto. That I remember when it came out, I was like, this is okay, but it was just super, super sharp and grainy on all the images. I think what they decided is, all right, screw it. We'll just make it muddy like the rest of the cameras, and everybody will be happier now. And the result is, well, the images are just as bad, now they're just blurrier.
It looked like the early OnePlus stuff, like OnePlus 5. It just muds everything.
It's very
like,
bad.
With the focal length, you can get some great bokeh going, like with
Yeah.
and the focal distance on the telephoto lens is actually surprisingly close. Even when you're switched to it and you can verify you're on it, it can get really close compared to like the Mate 20. But as soon as it processes all the blurred stuff in the background, it turns into mush and weird. It's just bad.
Yeah, it's not a good implementation. And the wide angle, the ultra wide angle sensor, I should say, has actually much better dynamic range than telephoto. The telephoto, which looks washed out to all hell, it's just not pretty. The ultra wide has nice HDR. It does pretty good at that. Fine details are muddy. They're super muddy. And then it does the thing where everything, like you can use, it's either super bent and bowed out at the edges, or it's pinched in if you use the lens correction. There's no happy medium. So either all the buildings look like they're crooked, or they look like somebody's squeezing them into the center of the image, and it's frustrating because it does capture a really interesting perspective. It's wider than LG's cameras, unlike the V40 and the G8. I think Samsung's 124, which they tried to say is like the human field of vision, but that's very not a good way to describe it. It's just a really wide picture. So it's a cool perspective, but the overall quality of it leaves something to be desired.
Yeah. Even though dynamic range is great, really
It
good
is.
considering
The dynamics on the ultra wide are good, and the main sensor is the strongest one. The main sensor, I would say, does not have any major flaws. It does have, like Ryan was saying, that issue where, like, if you get really close and you're trying to do like bokeh focus, like it gets really weird about what it's selecting to focus on. Like the software is trying to do some of the work, and it's not always doing a very good job at picking what should be in focus versus what should not.
And the processing for stuff in the background does weird stuff. When there isn't detail for it to lock onto in the processing, it adds detail and turns it to mud. It's really weird.
It is. It's strange. I will say, though, super sharp when it's on
Yes.
focus on something.
And
Very nice.
Or if you aren't trying to get the bokeh, if there are a lot of details in the image, it does a great job.
It does. It's a very, very good camera. But I would say the only difference is, and David Immel at Android Authority pointed this out, Samsung's changed the color profile on the camera this year to be less ultra boosted mega saturation. So images look a little more realistic. I'd say they still have some of that Samsung kind of trademark, muddiness, and like it has kind of an ethereal quality to the image, where it's like, something is not quite real here, but I can't tell what. But it's very good otherwise. The front-facing camera is also a big improvement, but still sucks compared to most other phones,
And
honestly.
there's no reason to have two of them on the S10 Plus.
There's not.
They're just for portrait effects. It's stupid.
Yeah, it is. The cutout is too big. But I mean, it doesn't bother me as much as I expected that it would. It just is sort of, this could be a much smaller feature that takes up less of my status bar.
I don't mind the cutout. And to reiterate, I still think this is a very good phone. Like, I think this is the best Android phone you can buy right now. Between the battery life, the fact that it is stupid fast. Like, this phone is very, 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 very fast.
Yeah.
I mean, and Samsung phones have traditionally not been that way.
No, this is
like this is a big step up for them.
Although I still maintain it drops frames more often than like a Pixel 3 does. It doesn't have that degree of smoothness.
It does. The smoothness is not there. So I think people should probably be aware, there's a difference between smoothness and speed.
Yeah, this feels like a OnePlus phone.
It does.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah. And if you turn on reduce animations, it really is just as fast and probably faster than a 6T. Like, it just blazes through stuff.
It definitely feels faster than the 16.
Well, it has the newer SoC, right?
It has an
855.
And it's so fast.
The mega big core, which is just really boosts the single threaded performance.
Has all the cores.
I would say if you're wondering, like, should I upgrade to the S10 on a performance basis? Yeah, absolutely. It's really, really quick. And the S10 Plus, it has a huge battery in it, and it just goes forever.
And the screen is flawless.
It is. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a gorgeous OLED panel.
Works really good outside too. Like, you're going to see all your fingerprints, but you will see the screen.
The uniformity is impeccable. There's no crushed blacks, even at really low brightness. It's great.
Oh no, my black's crushed at super low brightness all the time.
Compared to the Pixel 3, it is a huge difference though. Like, as far as all AMOLED displays I've seen have gone, this has the best at like minimum brightness. It doesn't start to clip until like, I think around 12, a value of 12, whereas the Pixel will do it at like 20.
I honestly see it pretty high, but maybe my panel is acting differently. I've seen it pretty high up. The other thing about this phone, about the screen, that's very weird, it doesn't tell you it's doing it, but it automatically switches in the blue light filter mode at like 10 p.m. till 6 a.m., no matter what. You can't turn the behavior off.
Wait,
yeah,
really?
So I noticed this on an airplane because I was like, I set the clock to Pacific time, and I noticed screen temperature suddenly changed, and I did not have the blue light filter on.
So, like, the blue light filter menu, it still has a turn on as scheduled option,
and it does.
You're saying it does this independently of that setting?
Yup. So
super weird.
It's
so
actually,
I wonder if
I just turned it off and mine's turned off. Like, I don't know.
No.
So
but the difference is tiny. If you turn on the blue light filter versus turn it off, you're going to notice the very subtle difference at night, at least. In the day, I don't know. Mine's definitely doing this thing where it's automatically turning on the filter. So it's.
I mean, it has the adaptive. Well,
I've tried adjusting all of that, and it doesn't do anything.
That's very weird.
Right now, if I turn on a blue light filter, the difference is basically negligible. It's at the point where it's a little bit. But I did notice this. I'm not sure if it's a bug because maybe my handset is behaving weird, but no, I definitely noticed it. I'm like, wait, my phone just changed brightness levels or white balance levels on its own very visibly just when the time changed. And I do not have it scheduled to go on. So, and it showed as turned off at the time.
Weird.
Yeah, it's weird. And I think, what I was reminded of is Samsung says their display emits 80% less blue light under all circumstances now. And so I think it's doing maybe either time-based or ambient light-based kind of tuning of the white balance. And something weird is going on there. So not sure what the deal is, but it's something strange. That said, this display is otherwise unimpeachable. It's really nice. And like I said, I wholeheartedly recommend the phone. It works with USB power delivery, so all of your Pixel chargers work with it if you have those.
I think we tested it up to 15 watts.
Yeah, works
and
perfectly.
Also 15-watt fast charging, which is nice and does not require a weirdo custom Pixel standard.
Although it charges very slowly on the Pixel stand because the Pixel stand is not 15 watts.
Yeah. That is true. Yeah, the Pixel stand is only 10 watts with the Pixels because Google is being Google. So do you think people should buy the S10 Plus instead of like the S10e? Because I feel like that's kind of the one to buy.
The S10e's battery life is that's kind of the issue. That's the one thing. So if you really value battery life, if you want the phone to last like 6, 7, maybe 8 hours screen time a day, you gotta get the Plus. I think the regular S10e is going to get you to maybe 4 hours.
I feel like I feel like that's average though.
It is. It's very average. It's not bad. It's just very average.
But the S10 Plus is exceptional.
But I mean it's $750. You pay $250 more if you want the S10 Plus.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a big difference.
But under no circumstances, buy the regular S10 because it's pointless.
Yeah.
No reason for that phone to exist. It has a worse fingerprint scanner than the E. You get nothing of benefit. You get the crappy telescope or telephoto camera that you really don't want, and you get a curved screen that's a little bit bigger. I mean, that's really it. The battery life is going to be basically the same. It's a slightly bigger battery, but the screen is larger, so it ends up making up for it.
I thought you were exaggerating about the battery life, but when my OnePlus 6T died on the way back from picking up the S10 Plus, I had to use it the whole way home. And I believe I used it for 4 hours continuously on the bus, and I only went from 50% to 30%.
Yeah, especially at low brightness, it barely sips power at all.
I couldn't believe it.
Oh no, it's nuts. I will sit there in bed like reading Kindle books for like 3 hours, and it's only gone down like 14% or something. It's super low brightness. It's insane.
Yeah.
Have you guys used it to charge anything wirelessly? Have you actually to see how bad that is for the battery?
I don't have a Galaxy Buds, so no, I have not bothered to try that out.
1 second. I'll figure this out. You guys go.
Yeah. I mean, I tested it like with another phone, just like to see, to make sure it works. But like I haven't done it over a long period of time. I feel like it's going to be absolute murder on the battery.
I did try it with the speaking case on, and it wasn't having it. So I think he probably has to be bare or very thin case to really work well.
I can't get it to charge my Pixel 3.
Yeah. I tried it with a Pixel 3 and it worked. But you do have to put it like right in the middle.
I think it's his niche feature. Like the feature is really only useful if you have Galaxy Buds. Every other use case is effectively pointless. And I think the Galaxy Buds use case is your phone is by your nightstand and not on a wireless charger. It's in a wired charger. And you flip it upside down and you put your Galaxy Buds on top to charge them.
Can you charge the phone and do wireless charging at the same time?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I actually confirmed that with Samsung. You can.
So it does pass through.
Otherwise, the feature would be literally pointless. So yeah,
they definitely have an ad of some lady like setting her phone down on like the table in a restaurant to charge her friend's phone. Like that is definitely a thing that they showed.
That is doing. So dumb because you're going to drain
I love that 2% an hour charging speed.
You're going to drain an order of magnitude more battery from your phone than the person is going to get from theirs, like without a doubt. It's actually dumb for that.
Yeah, I mean, I was under the impression it's a pretty high wattage. Like it's supposed to be like 9 watts.
Yeah,
but the efficiency is so with wireless charging, I feel like it's gonna just mess up the battery in your phone so much that it's not worth doing.
Apparently, the amount of time it takes to fully charge the Galaxy Buds 2 is pretty long. It takes hours to do it. So it really is an overnight thing that you would be using it for. So I haven't used that feature. Other things about it has a headphone jack.
It does. Nice. I love it.
Yeah, it's got a nice headphone jack. It works. I would say that my only other really big gripe is that, man, it is so thin and slippery and obviously fragile. And I have not seen many good cases for this phone yet.
That is the problem. I haven't even been able to find one for mine yet. I ordered one; it hasn't arrived. All of them are. Ugly.
So with Samsung phones, I always buy Samsung's first party cases because they're super nice, even though they're kind of expensive.
They are expensive. I'm thinking about getting the leather Samsung one.
That's actually what I'm probably going to order.
The Alcantara one for the S9 was real nice.
I don't know if they have Alcantara for the S10. Okay. I don't think they do actually.
A couple generations ago, they were doing those fabric ones that were super cool, but I don't think they're doing those anymore.
Yeah. You could get the LED case.
I'm definitely not going to do that.
That still looks cool. I feel like if I was getting an S10, I'd probably get that.
So the LED case does literally one cool thing. If you set a countdown timer on your camera, it displays the countdown on the LED case so people can see when the photo is going to take.
Wow.
That's actually kind of cool, right? It's kind of cool. Not a reason to buy a case, though.
I did see you can actually customize the logo that appears, but it's only a 7x7 grid, so you can't really do a lot. But it's still neat.
Basically it's HTC dot view, but on the back of the phone.
I didn't know this was a thing.
Dot view was
cool.
Dot view is kind of cool, except the cases suck because who wants a folio case on their phone aside from dads?
If you could have properly folded it back and locked it to the back of the phone or something, it would have been fine. But yeah, it was super awkward to actually use the phone.
Yeah, it was.
Gross. All the leather cases are offered in like bright colors. There's no like natural.
Okay, your natural leather fetish is weird.
I
Let's just move on from discussions of leather, and I guess move on to shilling for Twitch. Who wants to do it?
You do it.
I
you're
do it.
Yeah,
I can
I've
do
never
it.
done it. I can
All
do
right,
it.
fine. I'll do it. It's fine. It's okay.
Go ahead.
All right. Hey,
Sorry.
so Android Police, we're on Twitch. Our podcast is. That's the thing. And if you are an Amazon Prime subscriber, you can subscribe to our channel on Twitch. So what you can do is you link your Twitch account to your Amazon Prime account, and you can subscribe to one Twitch channel per month for free. It costs you absolutely nothing, and it actually supports us monetarily. Like, we get money for what costs you nothing. You help support the show that way so we can keep producing it. So if you go to twitch.tv/androidpolice or twitch.com/androidpolice, I think both of them work, and subscribe to the channel, your subscription lasts 1 month, and then you have to renew it every month thereafter. It's still free every month, but Twitch lets that subscription lapse every month, so you have to keep renewing it. And also, when you subscribe on our live show, the live video show, there will be a big Pixel 3 XL notch that comes down on the screen, and we'll all thank you for your support of our podcast. Oh, we're also on Spotify now. That's also in the plug. I didn't know that.
We're on Spotify.
Yep. If you search for Android Police on Spotify, we show up. That's pretty cool.
Hey, I'm resubbed.
Yes. Also, in
Might be a
other
notch coming here, sir. A second.
in other house cleaning news, we're not streaming on YouTube anymore, because someone very kindly pointed out to me during the last podcast that it is against the Twitch affiliate terms to multi-stream on different services. So no more YouTube streaming. We're sorry. Now the
I feel
video
like a
will
lot
show
of
up
people
on-
do that though.
Well,
right?
screw
Like,
not
Twitch and also
really.
subscribe to us on Twitch.
Yeah, Twitch is where all the cool people hang out, and the podcast will still show up on YouTube. Just it won't be live streamed there. So
Good stuff,
yeah.
I guess. Maybe I'm not really sure. Okay.
Cool.
You might have heard some other news this week, some kind of Android related thing. I wasn't that big a deal. Something about Q. I don't.
I don't think we wrote about that.
Does anybody know anything about that? All right, let's just move on.
no, it didn't-
Android
No.
K.
No, so I read this other Android blog, which shall remain nameless, who told me that Android Q definitely did not come out on Wednesday. So, I mean, it didn't happen.
Don't be mean. They were only trying to be really petty to everybody else.
Yeah,
Come on,
They were only
guys.
wrong 2 hours later.
At any rate, Android Q actually did come out on Wednesday, and we've written about 1 million things about it. And you can go and read all of that. We have a handy dandy issue or a handy dandy like feature tracker thing that we're going to update, where you can see all the stuff that's new. And then, there's some stuff.
And by we mean Ryan, who is currently locked inside of his own home until it's finished.
That's true.
That's true. Yeah. So Android Q has a ton of fun stuff. So whoa, lightning just did you guys see that? outside?
I saw that
Yeah.
one.
That was a lot of lightning. I'm probably gonna disconnect and cut off the stream. So I'm sorry if that happens, everyone. But let's see. I've been writing about Android Q for like 2 days now, and I at the top of my head I cannot name something that's new.
There's
Yeah,
so much.
That's the thing
going.
is like it's the developer preview. It's the first release, so there isn't a lot of like big headlining stuff that's different. It's just a lot of like low level developer oriented things and like privacy changes and things of that sort. But you can install it on a Pixel phone if you want, any Pixel phone, even the first gen.
Mhm.
And we did ask Google if that meant that the first gen is going to get the final version, and they wouldn't tell us.
It's true. Yeah, even though the Verge has been saying that the first gen is going to get it when it lands, and it probably will. They wouldn't be doing the beta if it weren't likely, but technically there's nothing that said that the original Pixels are going to get Q, and Google won't tell us, so there's no confirmation that it's true, but it's very likely.
Artem's theory is that they wouldn't put people on a beta track if they couldn't then take them off of the beta track.
They could give
That
the
makes sense.
Nokia back to Pi.
Yeah,
right?
Artem says he doesn't think
yeah.
you can downgrade, but I don't think that's true.
Oh,
I
wait,
bet
if you
they'll mess up
have
user
a
data
phone,
so bad.
Yeah, because you can unenroll from the beta
Yeah,
and roll
exactly.
back. You can totally
Yeah,
do
but
it.
You have to wipe to do it, right?
Yeah, that's a full factory
Yeah.
reset. So
Yeah,
they're not going
that's
to force
fine.
people into
but
that.
people like you check the box when you do the beta that you understand these sorts of implications. Like you're installing beta software on your phone. That's a thing that can happen.
I agree
You
that
know,
it's pretty unlikely, but it seems like it's.
I think barring some kind of technical hurdle, like it's going to happen. I think Google doesn't want to commit probably because at this point they don't know for 100% certainties.
They know that there could be some sort of thing that happens unexpectedly.
They're
Google
leaving a
really
foot
doesn't
in the
commit
door.
to things.
Yeah, they don't. They're not good at that. In the coming weeks, they could though.
Yeah, and it does help a little bit that they backported treble to the original Pixels, so it would be easier for them to do it.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be a massive.
I mean,
Whoa, lightning again.
I think the only thing that would possibly prevent them from doing it is if they came upon some kind of either performance bottleneck or if there was a driver issue. Drivers would probably be the big one, but I think those phones, they're on the Snapdragon 821, right? They should still be fine.
Yeah, my original
window trouble, right? I think the 2-year window for binary updates is up. So unless they're strong arming Qualcomm into continuing to provide updates,
Treble should address that, right? Like they should have forward compatible drivers.
The binaries are in the treble partition, or
they're separated. But if there's a requirement, if they have a new API that requires binary level support for something like Apple's move to Vulkan in the recent release of OS X 10.13, that precluded a whole bunch of previous hardware that was running drivers that were fundamentally incompatible.
Yeah, but who's to say Google can't break its own API rules? Like, Google could just be like, nah, we're not doing it. It's okay. It's all right,
realistically,
guys.
Google can, from time to time, shim their way into making stuff work. It's not desirable. It's not performant, but it can work. And even barring that, let's be honest, we aren't hitting those type of hardware requirements anymore. They're not coming like every 6 months like they were back in the gingerbread days. They're happening every few years.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. That is true. The speed with which it is happening is slowed down. I mean, the only things that are really hardware dependent we're seeing that are coming along anymore. There's some video codec stuff for like VP9 that is pretty recent, but that only really affects phone with HDR 4K playback capabilities, and is not really going to affect these older handsets. And then I guess the other stuff is probably like middleware support. And that, again, is not going to rely on, a hard-coded API as something that's in Android where it's actually a requirement for the OS level, because the OS is not relying on those APIs for middleware.
Granted, we don't have a lot of the details for the stuff that's happening at that level. Like, there are a bunch of Android runtime enhancements in Q, and who knows, one of those might be dependent upon some hardware change, a certain instruction set that only one series of hardware forward has. Like, we don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we can briefly go over some of the more user-facing changes. Like there's kind of theming and kind of a dark mode.
Kind of,
but they're both broken.
You can't turn dark mode on if you didn't have it on before the upgrade.
You can now via ADB. So
also, if you turn on battery saver, it turns on the dark mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's broken. A couple of apps don't play right with it, and it doesn't theme. It themes more than it did in Pi, but it doesn't theme everything yet.
Yeah, it's real jank right now.
So yeah, there are definitely a lot of first-party Google apps that are still like not even aware that dark mode's a thing.
And some of them are aware, but don't do it right.
Yeah. Also, Android messages, dark mode's just broken in the Q beta. Like you can't, if you hit enable, nothing happens. So that's a bit funny. So it's definitely a big work in progress. And Google did not even announce dark theme as a feature of Q. They have said nothing about it, and which is really weird because it's very obviously there and they're very obviously working on it. But I think the issue is they want to give the teams on all the various apps time to get their stuff together and make some progress, because there's still, major important apps like the Google app itself, Gmail, Chrome. Chrome, we know, is a work in progress. They're working on that in Canary, so it's a thing, but it's still slow going.
It's gonna take a while to trickle down.
And you can tell they still haven't decided how to do it at every level, because some of the implementations are black and some of the implementations are dark gray.
Yes, I've noticed that. Like all the system stuff is black, which looks, it doesn't go as well with the dark gray.
I think the black is the way to go, though, because the LG panel, the LG panel on the Pixel 3 is too uneven for gray to work.
I am team light gray. Team light gray, Ryan.
All right.
I don't want a hard black.
I'm with Corbin.
Yeah, no one likes hard black background, and it looks terrible on smartphones when you scroll.
If Google had chosen,
it's the scrolling.
Panels,
It has nothing to do with how it looks just straight on. It's entirely about scrolling.
I know.
The streaky look is awful.
Yeah. It like your phone flickers in front of you while you try to go down an article. It's terrible.
That made
team light gray.
But they chose bad quality panels in the Pixel 3 and the Pixel 2 XL. They're uneven. They cannot handle those low gray values without it looking like crap.
The Pixel 3 panel is not as good as the 3 XL, but it is not as bad as the 2 XL.
It's true.
That's even more reason why it should be Team Gray, because if only a tiny fraction of the amount of Android phones have good AMOLED panels, then it should not be black, because the vast majority of phones are going to be using garbage LCDs.
Yeah, and it looks garbage look better with black.
So Ryan is a pixel peeper. So he's super concerned about the evenness of the gray, which I think most people are not. I think people are more concerned with the purple smear, which is much more obvious on cheap panels, and it makes things look like they're like flickering.
Yeah, that's true. I think we will be able to say it's officially settled when the Play Store updates in about 2025. So we'll just hold on till then. I mean, seriously, that app is the most woefully behind application in the whole stable of first-party Google apps.
And when dark mode comes, there'll be another tab bar. I don't know what it'll be, but there'll be another row of tabs.
Yeah, probably. But they won't be tabs. They'll be like rounded buttons. Like,
oh Lord.
Yeah.
Okay. With all this said, there is one easy fix, and weirdly, they will never possibly do this. Just offer both. For the people that want black, give them black. For the people that want dark gray, give them dark gray. You know what?
Oh yeah, that's like the least googly solution to a problem ever.
Yeah, that's not
coming
in. Not going to happen.
Or just choose good quality screens in your future hardware so you could do whatever.
I mean, there are a lot of phones out there, Ryan. There are a lot of phones.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't think that's going to happen. Other Q features that everybody can get very excited about, but then very disappointed. There's a native desktop mode that I'm pretty sure absolutely nothing's going to happen with. I'm pretty sure this is like somebody's little playground, and they're having fun with this feature, and nobody's ever going to use it for anything.
I don't know, because I'm betting that Samsung will migrate DeX to it, because there's no point in Samsung maintaining DeX if Google is going to be maintaining this whole other separate system that they can duplicate.
If this feature isn't even remotely fleshed out, then Samsung is further ahead.
Samsung's not going to migrate to that. No way.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, it might for them to build DeX on. It might be easier to maintain in the long run. They could recognize that.
Yeah, I mean, it does look like something that we built on.
Doing work all over again.
Yeah. And you remember the Superbook? I reviewed the Superbook. I know those guys are going to switch to it. Granted, it's junk,
I'm sure they will, and it'll work exactly as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like junk. It looks very unfinished. I'm sure in the next 4 years we'll see what happens to it. Yeah. I don't think this is anything that's close to ready. This is definitely a toy for the Android team.
In other news that of features that just plain suck, the screen recording.
Yeah, that's broken mostly. Some people are saying it works, but none of us can get it to work.
I got it to work, but the whole process is super janky and terrible.
It is super, it's like you can tell it's just a technical implementation. They're just trying to test.
It's a beta. We're early.
I mean, it doesn't even look like a thing that is going to eventually be ready. It just looks like a thing that's there for developers or something. It's got like super old looking buttons. They look like they're from Android 2.0.
Yeah, it's very bizarre. It's the UI is very strange. Granted, it is a beta. Other major changes, I think. Let's see.
Screenshots have rounded corners, and
we think that's a bug. We think it's a bug.
That's so terrible.
Okay, but it seriously probably is a bug, because you can force this on in developer options in Pi to include all this stuff. So I'm like 90% sure this is just like something they had ticked on in the system image when they like flashed it.
Yeah.
And the toggle is gone for whatever reason.
Even if it's not a bug, they're gonna revert this in a later preview, because I have not seen one person say a good thing about it.
It's a bug.
It's objectively terrible.
Oh, the new share menu. That's a big deal.
Kind of. There's an updated. Well, kind of. So there's a new API in Android Q where developers can sort of say what their share targets are ahead of time, like app shortcuts, like how apps make app shortcuts. And so the idea is that when all the apps migrate to that, opening the share menu is going to be instant, because all the options have already been presented to the Android system.
That relies on developers to actually.
Yeah. So right now it's pretty much the same. It did seem a little bit faster for me when I pressed it. It still like took a second to open the extra buttons, but then after that it was instant. So I think there's some caching thing going on in the background, but we're not going to see a major difference until developers switch over, which will be a year or more.
Yeah, and I don't think any developer is going to abuse this and assume that lots of applications should be in their default share flow. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I don't see how this could be an issue.
Even then, it'll be a huge list that loads real fast.
I know. I really hope that Google gives us an option to turn this completely off in stock Android like LG and Samsung have, because I have never once actually, there are one or two occasions where I've used this, but the options I want are always piled behind Twitter DM conversations.
Yep.
It's terrible.
It always wants me to send Slack DMs to like David.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's either Slack or Twitter DMs that show up for me on that, and it makes it useless.
Yeah. So Snoop in the Twitch chat said I have quite a few share options, and mine's tons faster on Q.
Okay.
So
well,
there's a little bit of an improvement.
Hopefully it gets better. We'll see what happens. I know that Dave Burke had said last year at I.O. that they were going to work on this. So this has been a long time coming.
Yeah. This is the new Trouble project. It takes just as much engineering.
Yeah. I think on a more kind of hopeful outlook, slices are becoming a thing. And slices are pretty interesting.
And some of the implementations they're talking about for Q are going to be really useful. Being able to merge settings into your app so that you can like turn on Wi-Fi and
like that floating settings panel that looked super cool in the screenshot example.
Imagine setting up all your smart home crap with all of the settings, app stuff you need
let us just open your Bluetooth settings in this floating window real quick.
It won't take you 20 minutes to set up your Belkin whatever.
That's just on the app developers, because when I was setting up my Wemo, that's like a 20-minute affair. But
it's terrible.
But TP Link's app doesn't need me to go into settings or anything. It just finds it and does all those stuff in the background. So I think that's just terrible app developers, which is what most smart home stuff is.
Don't buy Wemo anything.
No,
that's true. Yeah, Wemo switches are really awful.
So
they don't.
bad.
Wemo switches don't work if you're on a Google Wi-Fi, like one of the perimeter routers. Like if you're not on the main network.
If you're on a mesh network, it has trouble understanding.
Yeah, which is like seriously, the product was not built with this in mind. But no, it has to do with subnet masking. I think it's dumb. But slices are cool. Slices hopefully will make. This is the kind of thing that. The kind of modal computing of smartphones is made very limiting and annoying. When you have to adjust something functionally on the phone in order to proceed is in like a UX flow in an app, being able to pop something up and just do it on the fly like you can with Windows or with any other desktop operating system just makes a huge difference in terms of speeding things along and making you want to throw your phone less. So I think this is a very good thing, and I think we're going to see a lot of nifty implementations for this. At least I hope so. The other thing that's changed, which I am not at all a fan of in any way, shape, or form, is the new swipe left behavior on notifications, which is bad and dumb and needs to be reverted immediately, in my opinion.
It doesn't bother me at all. Just learn to swipe the other way.
No, I'm left-handed. I'm not learning, Ryan. I'm never changing.
This is fine with me too, but I can understand why you would be upset. And I do hope that they change this, because my wife is left-handed and she will yell at me if this happens.
I just need to swipe the other way. No, just give me a toggle. Just like switch phone to left-handed mode.
No, I am
Google discriminating against left-hand people.
It is discrimination, and I will not stand for it.
I'm strongly in favor of this going back, because legitimately, my wife will yell at me like it's my fault when her phone is updated like this.
Oh, Ryan, it is your fault for being right-handed, like all the other jerks on this planet. Yeah. So I don't like this change, even if it was just for one direction. Like I'm not using these options often enough to matter. Do people snooze notifications? Do you guys do this?
No,
I do not. I treat your notification bar as a to-do list. Yes, I snooze notifications.
Interesting. I treat mine as a to-do list sometimes, but I definitely don't snooze. I just leave them there.
I have 2 minutes. Like between my computer and laptop and phone, no one notification is going to be like a to-do list for me, because it's all going to different places and I'm all dismissing them at different times.
Interesting. Yeah, I think
there are times I know I've dismissed notifications on one phone, knowing that I'll be able to find that same notification on a different phone in like an hour when I get back to that phone. So that's the thing I do all the time. If I could snooze them, it would be better.
And this is a totally tech blogger problem.
Yeah, it is. It's also an Artem problem. Artem is going to snooze notifications like there's no tomorrow. God,
Yeah.
he's going to take even longer to respond to Slack DMs now.
I'm surprised.
Also,
Sorry.
one other. Oh, go ahead, because I was going to say something else.
I was gonna say I'm sad that they got rid of the snooze forever in Gmail because it made me feel more organized than I am. I could
Just
snooze it.
continually pushing it off.
No, there was just a forever. You could just be like, I'm gonna put this on a list I'm never gonna check.
I thought
And
it was
still have it.
I thought it was someday in
Yeah,
Bond.
whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. Someday means forever. It's not now.
One of the other interface changes in Android Q that I'm kind of mixed about, but people seem to like, is that the lock screen no longer shows the album art when you're playing music. It now shows like this weird faded pattern thing that's
Yeah.
kind of based on your album art, but not really.
Something's broken.
It's
I think it might have to do with Ben over at 9 to 5 was telling me that a bunch of the jank we're running into has to do with dirty flashing, and if we wipe, it'll fix it. And that might be one of the things.
I wiped and that's what I got.
Oh,
Yeah.
Well.
This is a brand new
never mind.
phone.
Yeah, I mean,
really.
I flashed the OTA, but I had reset the phone before that.
I thought so we got an email saying it related to which music app you used. Google Play messed it up. All the other ones did it right, I thought. Like where they showed the blurred album art. Google Play Music just like blurred random stuff.
I'm not sure. I mean, in the article, I used Google Play Music across all three, and it all did weird colors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
think
think
Spotify worked for me.
yeah, no, all the rest of them work. I think it's just Google
So
Play
it's,
Music.
it's just okay.
I think it's Play
Yeah.
Music. We definitely
Well,
got
that's
an email
great.
about this.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's working.
Also,
Okay,
Play
well-
Music is an unsupported deprecated app. Stop using it.
Okay. Well, look, I once
you know
found
what?
that was the only music app on it, David.
You know what? Here's the thing, though. YouTube Music is still terrible. It is a
It
bad
is
app.
really, really bad. But Spotify. Everybody should just switch to Spotify.
No,
now.
Spotify. The Spotify app
Okay.
is bad too. It's a real bad app.
It is a bad app.
I spam everyone at Android Police with my playlists all the time.
You do,
He's
and you
not
know what?
lying,
I
he
don't
does.
have Spotify, so I can't listen to your music.
You can
which is
listen to the 30-second clips. You can do it.
fine. I'm not
in
going to do
like
that.
low like 32 bit rate. Speaking of dead apps, I thought it was really funny that the initial apps that Android Q installs when you are on a new installation includes Allo. So actually Allo was downloaded to my phone the day they shut it down.
That's
Do
just
we-
like a send off. It's RIP. They're pulling one
Yeah.
out for Allo.
Do we want to just talk about Allo since we're
No.
on that?
Let's not talk about it. Allo sucks. It's dumb. It's bad. It's gone. Let's
Aw.
talk about the Better Prettier Files app, which actually is better and prettier, and now has these like awesome quick sort options for file types at the top.
It is really nice. And also I noticed that when you like before when you selected a file from another app, and if they didn't have their own picker, it would just you'd see like the downloads folder, whatever. But this new interface carries over to the file picker. Like when you go to select a file from another app, it looks
That's
exactly
nice.
like the Files app. So you still get this nice app with filtering
Yeah,
and everything.
opening the downloads folder for things was always super weird to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love the new Files app. It's great. I'm definitely going to absolutely demand that every other OEM adopt it immediately, or at
Yeah.
least skin a version of it.
They'll keep making their own. Just
Samsung's
like,
app sucks
texting
so
apps.
bad. I hate it. It's really terrible. And third-party file manager apps are all terrible. Nobody suggests one to me. They're all
Solid
bad.
Explorer is good. Shut up.
No, they all suck.
Solid Explorer is what I use on my Chromebook, or I used to before Google finally lets you access the Android files
Yes.
from the Chrome OS files. So now I don't have a use for.
You
Solid
still have to do
Explorer.
this stupid toggle to show all the files, which really annoys me.
I know,
But
well,
like,
it was fun when I was writing like some post about the changes in Chrome OS. Me and Rita were both like, "Why is there no way to see Android files?" And then someone like a couple hours later pointed out, "There's a toggle."
yeah,
Like,
I use
this
that
is not
toggle.
obvious.
I use that toggle all the time because like I use watermarking apps and stuff on Chrome OS. So like it's you got to use it.
I don't know why that's not default. It's ridiculous.
it's pretty. I think it's just to not confuse the normals, so they don't break their stuff as easily. I'm sure you could break some Android apps messing around in there if you really wanted.
Yeah.
There's some other new notification behavior. Long pressing does some new stuff on notifications.
It really
Yeah.
just pops up a new thing for management for. Go ahead.
So yeah, if you long press notifications, it actually it gives you better explanations of like what the buttons do. So if the notification, like most notifications, aren't silenced, it'll give you the option to to mute all the notifications or keep alerting, or so like they're bigger buttons too.
And there's one more than before. Effectively, you get the same options as before, plus a new one in a better configuration.
Yeah, and I wrote this, and I'm having trouble remembering what the options are. What are they?
Block, show silently, and keep alerting.
Yes.
And previously, you had basically just block or keep showing.
Yeah, and like the verbiage was a lot more confusing before, so I think it's
Yeah.
going to be clear to people what these buttons do. Also, if you block notifications for an app, you can go into the settings menu and you can see all of the blocked apps.
Oh yes, thank God. That was really needed because I've always had this horrible fear about accidentally blocking a notification for an app and not wanting to do that and not knowing how to go check then which one I blocked.
Unfortunately, though, it only applies if the entire app is blocked. So if you have an app that you just like block a couple of channels,
yeah, but you're much more likely to know you did that though. Like
Hopefully.
you probably remember that. Maybe it should include channels though. Yeah, you're right.
I bet it will by the time it's done.
Let's see what else. There's a new audio output switcher that's just easier to access. It doesn't really need much discussion, but you can just change the media output device more easily directly once you hit the volume rocker. You can just select devices. Samsung phones have done this for ages. There is a new battery saver mode that can activate the battery saver based on how long Android expects your phone is going to last based on your usage habits. So basically, Android Q will automatically turn on the power saving mode if it thinks your phone's not going to last long enough before you get to a charger based on how you typically use your phone, which sounds like a recipe for disaster because like that's you're trying to create a formula for behavior that is probably wildly inconsistent on edge cases because that's the whole thing. If your phone doesn't last long enough on that one edge case where you need it to, you're screwed. It's dead. So that really sucks.
Yeah, it's going to be like that time when they accidentally turned on everybody's power saver mode.
Oh, that was fun. I mean, it didn't hurt anybody. It just like meant like, oh, your phone's lasting longer now. Sorry. There's the freeform window mode. Is now able to be used without ADB. So this is like it's been since Nougat, basically. So you can turn it on in developer options. I don't know why you would.
And it's been a feature on Samsung phones for a while anyway, right?
Yeah, kind of.
And it's not good.
No, it's not. It's really terrible. I hate every time I accidentally activate it on Samsung phones. It's more like a God damn it moment, not a oh cool.
Yeah, wait, so they turned off, or do they still have like pop-up view on the Galaxy S10? I feel like I don't think.
Yes, they do. You have to enable.
Yeah, you have to install Good Lock or whatever, right?
Wait,
yeah, I don't think Good Lock's required.
No, open up in pop-up view. Wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but Good Lock is not required. I've got it.
No, you can just you just have to activate it. But nobody uses that. That's why
it just goes by a different name. It's called open in pop-up view.
Yeah.
I see.
There are some changes to privacy. There are some privacy permission tweaks and background app changes. So like things we've got like Beta 1 limits access to non-changeable device IDs like MAC address or IMEI. And so there are certain permissions that can only be granted while this is actually cool. So you can set certain apps to have access to certain permissions only while the app is in use. And I know this is a concern for a lot of people when it comes to location permission. The idea here is, so for example, if you have like the Starbucks app, which requests location because there's an in-app map in it to like tell you where the nearest store is. Is there any good reason the Starbucks app should be tracking your location when it's not open? No.
So it can send you coffee coupons, obviously.
Exactly. So no, obviously not. And so you can now set that in Android Q, which is going to upset so many app developers. They're going to be so mad about this.
Cheetah Mobile's starting to like sweat nervously.
Screw those guys. Like that is a desperately needed permission. I definitely agree with that. There's also
let's see if it ends up applying to Google Pay.
Yeah, there's also
definitely not apply to system app.
You can use Google Pay at this location,
or else. Background apps also can't change focus to suddenly bring themselves forward anymore, which is nice. And there are also some changes. I don't know if you wrote about this to the chat head basically permission, where it's very weird. No app can use that draw over permission anymore if you sideload it.
I think that's still in our. Oh no,
they
looked that up.
Like 30 seconds, right?
The total block is only for Android Go.
Yeah,
and I was trying to figure this out earlier, but like I actually sideloaded an app that I think uses an overlay because it overlays on top of the status bar, and it kept running after 30 seconds. So I need to look.
So
into
maybe
that a
it's
little bit more.
broken, or maybe it's not the same permission. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, some of these haven't been implemented yet. Like a lot of the things that were in the Q announcement haven't actually.
This was
made
an
their way to
announcement. This wasn't something somebody discovered. They just
Oh,
announced
okay.
this thing. So also, clipboard managers no longer a thing.
Yeah,
In the background,
which is sad. Well, yeah. I mean, but what
They could
what
still,
do they do with
like-
it in the foreground,
if they turned into keyboards, they could keep working.
right? But then
Sure.
that would be a keyboard and not a clipboard manager. That
Then
would
it
be a
could
keyboard with a
keyboard
clipboard
with a clipboard manager.
Basically,
I
what
mean-
Google is saying is you can trust us with your clipboard stuff and nobody else.
Yeah, so it's like, you can't have an app in the background that will just save your clipboard stuff for you, which is convenient if you want to access something you copied earlier. But also, it's something that an app could do to be very malicious if it wanted to.
Yeah.
Just,
And
like, save
To be
everything.
fair, isn't the Google keyboard rolling out a keyboard manager? Isn't that
Yeah,
planned?
It's
Yeah.
already out.
They just
but
did,
not
and
the
it's
only one.
it's quite an odd coincidence that happened in just the last month and a half or
Actually,
so.
it
It's
just
not
went live when I installed Q on my phone.
And I think
That's
that-
when the
yeah,
manager
exactly.
appeared.
and
The
plus
plot
it's pretty
thickened.
buggy still. It's super buggy still. So yeah,
Yeah.
not really a good time. Plus it feels a little uncool that they did this without maybe telling a bunch of clipboard manager developers, hey, maybe you might want to investigate adding a keyboard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reasons behind this they're definitely public image things for Android privacy and security. The whole idea is you don't want some app running in the background that some story comes up, Play Store app was distributed and stole all your passwords. So that's the kind of what they're trying to avoid. They can basically say, well, it's a keyboard, it has access to this anyway, so you chose to trust it with things you type.
Yeah, but they just cut off a whole bunch of features and functions that certain power users especially were using relentlessly. I look at Artem. Artem is like the classic case
I
for
mean,
somebody who wants this.
This is the story of every Android update for the past 4 years.
Yeah.
I-
This is picking another group and just kind of taking the wind out of their sails.
I do think it would be nice if they could add sort of a permission to replace this, but I think this is probably still something that really needed to happen, because in just on the surface, an app being able to access your clipboard at any time, where very often you probably put passwords and other private data, it's not good. And I was reading Windows Phone actually apparently never allowed this, and a couple of Android forks also don't allow it. So it's probably about time for Google to do that.
Yeah.
Right. I agree with that, but at the same time, I'm forced to question, like, I know certainly some people are putting passwords in their clipboard, but I don't think that's actually that common.
I don't know. Password managers. You go to the manager, you copy the password, you paste
Yeah,
it.
I mean,
But there's now an API where
Right,
password
that's-
managers
yeah.
can check your
App
password
use
without
API.
ever touching a clipboard. So
I
that is not
definitely-
an excuse anymore.
I copy fewer passwords now than I would have in the past.
Fewer, but you still do it, right?
I mean, super rarely, only if the password manager is broken and my password is ridiculous.
Yeah, and honestly, my password manager hasn't been broken in a pretty long time. The only time I still ever have to do it is like weird website cases where they coded their password incorrectly.
Yeah, or sometimes there are apps that just don't work with the autofill stuff.
I get so
Yeah, it
paranoid with
still
stuff
happens.
like that. Like when I'm doing cryptocurrency transactions between accounts, I will do it from a Chromebook because I know it's the only way that my input is safe.
Unless Google hacks you.
Yeah, well, I just know that nothing is reading my clipboard if I'm copying an address or a key. Like I don't want anything in the way. I don't want like, what is the tool that we use, Cody, for phrase expander? I don't want anything reading my input.
No, they're gonna steal all of Ryan's Doge coins.
They will, my precious Doge.
So there are some other under the changes and API stuff. I think the one I'll single out that actually has some kind of implication for making your life better is the smart home IoT tweaks for Wi-Fi setup. So now when you developers, yeah. So there's a developer option now so that their setup apps can target a known list of SSIDs to connect to. So basically, you don't have to pick from a super giant list. Like if you live in an apartment complex, trying to set up a smart home device is a nightmare because there are like a million SSIDs, and who knows that the smart home one actually has the highest output unless you're physically, literally right next to it, and even then, it's not a guarantee. So it's definitely welcome that it can just look for preferred SSIDs. And paired with the slices, that obviously should hopefully make some of the stuff a little bit easier to set up, because I know setting up IoT stuff is a nightmare for the most part. Even Google stuff cannot always be very friendly.
More of it needs NFC pairing.
Set it does.
Up, put it where it goes.
I mean, NFC pairing is pretty, or QR codes. Honestly, the QR codes on Google Wi-Fi work perfectly. Love them. Super simple. Makes setting them up super easy.
And QR codes are coming to Android Q. You can share SSIDs and passwords.
Yes. It's unclear what other devices can take advantage of this unless they run Q. Are there any other Android phones that can do this?
I think just other phones running Q.
I know. Well, that's cool.
In 3 years, everyone will pair. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be some other better way of sharing Wi-Fi by then. But okay. Let's move on from Android Q though, because we have some other topics to cover. One of which is, I think, very near and dear to me, and Google appears to be letting some people on its laptop and tablet, who cares about tablet divisions, they're putting them elsewhere. They're not on those teams anymore. Quote, dozens of people. So that's probably
I think this kind of suggests that the Pixel Slate's not doing so hot.
Well, it was garbage, and they knew it.
Now, okay, but what if these dozens of people were working on Pixel Buds?
You know what? I'll tell you that the Pixel Slate is a fantastic Nintendo DS emulator, and I love it for that. I just don't think it's quite worth the $800 cost of entry, but who can say?
It's sad because I hope they make more Pixel books, because the Pixel book is still
more Pixel book.
They're not getting laptop. That would be ridiculous.
Yeah, get rid of the Pixel book.
Laptop I've ever owned.
I want a new Pixel book, Google.
I want a new Pixel book.
Pay money for it.
I want it to have smaller bezels. I want to have a fingerprint scanner. I want it to not flex as much because it is too flexible.
Same keyboard.
Same keyboard. Don't change the keyboard. If you change the keyboard, I actually will throw it at Rick Osterloh. And also, I think it could use louder speakers. They could be a little bit louder. They're pretty good in this current one.
They're fine.
LT needs LT. I want an LT option.
I need them to make it like 1.5 millimeters thicker, so that one, slightly better battery life. It could stand a bit of improvement, and two, it is too skinny. It's too thin. I don't like it. I feel uncomfortable touching it.
No! Like it actually bends in my bag and creates display hotspots because it is too thin.
Make it a little bit beefier, please.
No, I don't even. I didn't care. I still go into my bag. I don't care. It's gonna get bent. I don't mind. But it is annoying, and they should probably make it a little sturdier. I think a mag alloy chassis could also solve that.
The next one will just be made of titanium, like the old Power books.
That's fine too. Do that.
Full stainless steel, like polished, shiny stainless steel.
You know my heart, Ryan.
Oh God, that doesn't sound like fingerprints everywhere. Also, get rid of the white rubber silicone wrist pads. Those are bad.
I know that I've noticed on your screen. The last time I saw you, they've kind of they've made some marks up there, but on mine, nothing.
It's because mine's in my bag all the time, so it's pressing against it. And also, they just get yellow over time. I have to take a magic eraser to them every few months because.
Have you seen the lovely Horween leather case I made for mine?
No. It's not good. It would actually just make mine bend worse in my bag because it would put more pressure on it. I'm trying to think of what else I wanted in the next generation Pixel Slate. Oh, a better webcam. The one on there sucks. Not really good.
How about a better operating system?
You shut your mouth.
How dare you? They could use some fixes.
Virtual desktops are all we need, man.
Yeah, virtual desktops are coming. That's confirmed.
I know.
They're gonna happen. I think the other thing we need is also hey, notifications could be not terrible.
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
So
I cannot believe how bad they are on Chrome OS.
All of the tablet things they did to Chrome OS are bad. They need to undo all of this tablet-friendly junk.
Except the native assistant. The native assistant was good.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But they made notifications bad. They centered the app bar and gave it weird rounded corners.
And the PPI for Android apps is wrong. They're always smaller than Chrome content, no matter what your display size setting is. They're always too small.
So I don't understand if Google is still going to be doing Chrome OS as its tablet OS, or is it doing foldable Android phones are
I think Google's just going to let other OEMs do.
Because that's what
tablets.
they did with tablets, and look how well that worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out so great. We don't have tablets anymore. It's fantastic.
We just have
let
iPads.
Let them die
There are
in
no
peace.
other tablets.
We just have phones in our pockets that are almost as big as tablets now.
And this is
Yeah,
the
there we
problem. The Pixelbook was perfect. That was the perfect entry into a really high-end device in a new product category. And we already knew tablets were dead. There was no point in trying to make a first-party Chrome tablet when we didn't even have Android apps that worked in tablet. But they're treating that failure as something that's worth downsizing their entire division over. It's ridiculous.
But Ryan, think of the children. Do you know how many Chrome OS tablets Google could sell schools? They would buy the buttloads. They probably already are.
Get convertible Chromebooks. It's fine.
Yeah, convertible
but
Chromebooks.
The kids love tablets. They love iPads. Google needs an iPad. That's what that's for. It's only for education.
I'm sure that
Pixel Slate is not for education. The Pixel Slate is for
that is. I don't think there are very many schools that are gonna drop $800.
The hardware is beautiful. It's wonderful. It feels so nice, and
the screen's amazing.
The screen is unbelievable. The screen is like that's just give me that on the next Pixelbook.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny is like it has a rear camera. It is the worst rear camera ever fitted to a tablet in history. Like it is like iPad 2 levels of bad. Like we're taking a trip in a time machine on that camera. It's real weird why they put it on there.
And then on the flip side, Apple is putting their iPhone X cameras in their iPads.
Yeah, no, Apple is so far ahead. Everybody on tablets, it's like, it's an also ran for literally everyone in the space right now. Even the Surface Pro is kind of like, well, yeah, it runs Windows. Good for you, buddy. Nobody actually cares. Just buy a real Windows laptop. Just don't do that.
Every time I use my Surface Go, I just wish it had a normal laptop hinge because it's great, except for that. The form factor.
It's great, except for not being a laptop. That's
so
how everybody feels about detachables.
So Ryan wants a netbook. That's what I'm hearing.
Bring back netbooks, yes.
Actually, netbooks.
I have a netbook in my closet, Ryan. You can have it. It has like 2 gigs of RAM. You'll love it.
Wow, 2 gigs. That's a lot for a netbook.
It is. I upgraded it.
Wow. Asus's C101 was one of my favorite Chromebooks. It's a little 10-inch screen. It's great.
Oh yeah, C101 was good.
I had a tiny Lenovo netbook for a while. The resolution, I think it was like 600p.
Yes,
which was too short.
That was mine.
It was too short to like install some programs because the OK button would be cut off at the bottom, and you couldn't like slide it up high enough to.
Oh man, those were such great times. Yeah, I had that amazing 1024 by 600 display.
Yeah, those were going to be the next big thing for a while. You know,
gorgeous.
They're still going to be, man.
I mean, and they're like, hey, look, they all have these like crappy.
They are going to be
Linux.
But now they're going to have a big plastic crease down the middle, and you put them in a little tiny keyboard case, and then they still suck because they're still detachables. But now they fold, and it's also your phone.
And it costs 5 times as much as
the future is great, everybody. Yeah, seriously, like the whole cost equation to me on foldables is the one thing I'm like, it's dumb. It's actually dumb. Just buy a tablet.
That is how you know it is not ready for consumers. If it costs that much money, then nobody needs to be
buy a phone and also buy a laptop and be happy. Like you can have you have a much better laptop than you would have, and you can have a much less compromised phone than you would have. And trying to force them in together into this kind of like, toaster oven form factor. Just don't do it.
Convergence is an inherent compromise. You're going to get the worst of both worlds.
Yeah, convergence works for some products, but not for these ones. I don't think. Not yet. It could be decades before it really works for these products.
Yeah, like a foldable electronics don't make sense until you don't have to worry about how you're folding it.
So for example, one thing that always I can look back at, I watch Lazy Game Reviews all the time, and he does something with retro laptops, and every single retro laptop, I'm like, wow, literally nobody should have bought this. It's actually terrible in every way imaginable. And it's true. The first laptops, which came out I think in the mid 80s, like the very first ones, were basically unusable. They were basically just desktops, and you would set them up somewhere else.
They were like briefcases, like briefcases, really.
What was the first laptop you feel like you could actually buy that you could be remotely happy with? 2003, 2005, like 15 years later?
Depends on what you were doing.
I have a 2001 iBook that I could maybe use as FireWire.
There were good like Pentium, like mobile Pentium for laptops in 2002-ish, I think, that were starting to get good. I think that's as far back as you could go recently.
Yeah. And before that, they were strictly business and power user tools. Like that's the only purpose they served. You were like a network technician or some kind of executive on the go. You need to access your very important spreadsheets. And so, that was kind of the use case. I think the same thing, but I don't think there's like a professional use case for foldable phones. I'm going to go on a tangent about this. I think it's strictly a cool factor thing. And the phone already does all things you need it to. This is not enabling a new use case. This
lets you run 3 apps at the same time. Great. Awesome.
Which we all want to do.
That.
We're all so excited about running multiple apps at the same time, which is why multi-window is taken off so well on smartphones. Everybody uses it all the time. Anyway, with that rant over,
we should probably material science hasn't even caught up for it. We don't even have screens that can withstand folding.
Yeah, exactly. And Corning is saying it's going to be at least 2 years before we have the glass. And I bet
it's not going to be glass. It'll be something else. It'll be like
it is glass. They have it. It's glass.
They have it. They have. Here's the problem.
Transparent aluminum.
So wait, they have to use sodium in the production of the glass.
No, they said they could do that, but that doesn't work. They had
that's the thing. Is like to make the foldable glass, like they want to use sodium, but that corrodes the components that you need to make an OLED out of. So that's why
that was the initial challenge. So they did that with the Willow glass. The Willow glass is sodium treated. That exists and that is flexible. The Willow glass has been out for like 5 years.
Have you seen the radius that Willow glass can hit?
It probably not very good, but they have the new one. They're down to 5 millimeters. This isn't sodium treated. This is a true flexible glass, and they've demoed it, and they show a video of it in a little vise folding, over and over. So it exists, but it sounds like production isn't scalable yet. It sounds like probably there are major durability concerns, like obviously. Who knows what kind of like the tensile strength of the glass is when it's folded up. Like how much more pressure can it withstand when the phone is folded before it just like instantly breaks? So I think there are probably some significant challenges there to work out. Anyway, I have to get going here soon, but if I'm going to do one more complaint this week, it's that Huawei is real dumb and tried to just publish some photos basically showing off the optical zoom of the upcoming P30. And you know what? They were not labeled as shot on P30. Don't get me wrong. They did not outright lie, but they definitely misled. The photos were it took, I think, within hours, somebody had reversed image searched them. And oh yeah, one's from Getty. That one's from Shutterstock in 2009. And then there was a third one that was also licensed too. So somebody pointed this out. I think it's GSM Arena originally. And then Huawei responded by then adding a disclaimer to the bottom of the images, which if you feel you did nothing wrong, that's not the way you go about saying that.
Yeah, that's
covering your butt.
Yeah.
So Huawei then released a statement, not in any way apologizing for this, but saying, "Oh yeah, we noticed you saw those there. Interesting. We all know everybody's very excited about the phone. We'll talk more about it soon." It's just the most condescending, crappy sidestep of a statement. And this wouldn't be the worst thing, maybe, if they hadn't already done it twice before. They did the same thing last year with the Nova 3, and then they did it 3 years ago with the P9, where they actually posted a photo on Google Plus, advertising the P9 before it came out, and somebody found out it was shot in a Canon EOS 60 or whatever, or 5D. And
but nobody watches Google Plus.
Yeah. So they figured nobody would notice, but they definitely did. So this is the third time Huawei's got in trouble for this. And they don't seem to understand, they obviously do understand that it gets them in trouble, because otherwise they wouldn't add the disclaimer after somebody points it out. And yet they don't seem to understand that maybe just don't do it in the first place.
Yeah. And I saw someone pointed out in the comments, but what makes this all funnier is that Huawei really doesn't need to lie about the quality of their cameras, because
their cameras are best.
They're at if this was OnePlus doing it, I'd be like, okay, well, yeah, their cameras are garbage. They have to lie to make people buy the phones. But Huawei's pretty good. They're like Samsung and trading blows with Samsung and
They're
Apple.
better than
Oh,
Samsung.
they're better than Samsung. They're trading blows with Google. And when you take into
Yeah.
account the fact that you get 3 different focal lengths,
Yeah.
that's kind of an edge.
The Mate 20 Pro, actually, I would say, if you are really a photographer's photographer, is probably a cooler phone to use for taking photos than the Pixel 3. Like, the Pixel 3 is great if you're just taking a lot of shots and you want them to look real nice no matter what. But the Mate 20 Pro, way more flexibility.
I take the Mate 20 with me on events because I get the 3 different lenses. The high focal length one works amazingly compared to the one we were just shooting all over the one on the S10 Plus.
Yeah, everybody has wonderful things to say about that camera. So that really does blow me away that they're doing this, because they know better, and they could just show real photos and people would be like, all they would have to do is like put it like side by side with an S10 Plus they bought and be like, this is what theirs looks like, this is what ours looks like,
and you know,
be like, oh, theirs looks like shit.
If you have if you have the ability to pick and choose what photos you're showing to people, you can make any phone camera look like it's awesome.
Yeah.
True. Yeah,
Totally. Nobody's gonna know you played around in Lightroom with it unless it's real obvious.
Well, nobody's gonna know that you took 18 different shots and made sure you selected the one that was perfectly focused.
Or
It's on
like
tripod.
the shot on iPhone commercials where it's really on like a $20,000 gimbal here.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, you know, I remember years back, maybe like 2012 or 13, Microsoft got busted for doing like the same thing with a Lumia phone. They had like a commercial and they were like, this is like, you know, look how great this phone camera is. But then like somebody saw in the reflection of something in the video that there was like a guy with a DSLR taking the picture instead of the phone.
Oh.
It was, hold on.
That's pretty bad.
That would have been another instance of not having to do that, because the
It was
really good.
It was a Lumia 920. If anybody wants to look up the incident, it was pretty funny.
All right. Well, I have to run. I'm going to leave it to you guys to wrap up the show. Bye.
Okay. Bye, David.
Oh, okay.
So now that David is gone, let's make fun of him.
Yeah.
David,
Well, we can really quickly before the end of the show, we can touch on the OnePlus 7.
Yeah,
render.
we've only got like this one last thing that we're just gonna apparently So yeah, OnePlus 7 renders. Before we thought this was gonna be a slider. It's not a slider. It has a pop-up camera.
we were totally convinced because there's that extra void up in the top right.
Well,
It
yeah.
looked
So that was so they had the first time we saw the phone, it was in the case to obfuscate the shape, and it had like a whole big space at the top. We thought, oh, that's because the whole phone slides. No, they just didn't want to make like a case with a little air, like a little bubble on top for the slide up camera. So there's just like a lot of wasted space in this.
and we had no idea what that hole in the top right was for. Like,
yeah,
I guess there's a sensor at the top of the phone or something.
I mean, it's just maybe
I am. I'm okay with this design.
I love it
because I like
on
laptops that have the little privacy sliders for the camera, and this is just a phone version of that.
So I mean, I'm okay with this in theory, but I am concerned anytime you add additional moving parts to a device. This is just another thing to break.
That's true. I did the math based on the projections from where did I put that? Is that not included here? Oh, I never ended up publishing that. I was in the middle of an editorial and I put it down. Based on worst case numbers from the numbers provided by Oppo or Vivo for their sliding phone, it should last 3 to 5 years, assuming you actuate it for facial recognition between 200 and 300 times per day.
So that's like an average, which most people will be fine, but there are outliers. It's possible you'll buy this phone and the selfie camera will break in 6 months. I mean, I hope so. Like OnePlus is always so like amped up about the speed of its face unlock. So I hope that they're not going to configure this phone to like require that camera to pop up like every time you turn it on.
That's the only way I think that they can do it. It's going to be slower.
I want to be able to turn that off. Like I don't use face unlock. I don't want to use 2D face unlock on anything. And thanks to Snoop RG for subscribing.
Thank you.
Brad. So yeah, I mean, I want the selfie camera to remain in the phone like all the time because I don't really take selfies. Like let's just not open that ever.
I bet if you disable the mode, it won't pop out.
Yeah. So but otherwise, this looks like a 6T with like the pop-up camera.
Yeah, it looks identical.
And all screen. First American phone is going to be all screen.
So it looks like maybe even smaller bezels than the S10. Like,
maybe it's a render though.
Yeah, I mean, this is
So there's something curious about both the renders and the previous photo leaks, and that is that it looks like the edges of the display curve on both the original photo leaks.
Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
It might just be the glass that curves and not the display.
Could be, but look at the leak, the original leaked photo.
I'm looking at that right now, and you can see there's definitely like some weird reflection on like the left side. There's something going on, but I don't know if that's the panel curving or just like the glass.
Yeah, or the lighting in the room could be odd in some way.
Yeah, but this looks like a very pretty phone. It looks like they've slimmed down the bottom bezel a little bit more. But it
looks the same. I think.
I'm sure it'll have the same in-screen optical fingerprint sensor.
Yeah,
same.
Which garbage. I think is fine.
I think it's fine.
I think it's better than the one in the S10, but I don't know.
It is. I mean, it is definitely faster.
Yeah.
I don't think that it is as secure. I have some concerns about.
I'm sure it's less secure, but it's faster, and it works for me more often.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ultrasonic sensors are like what Google would prefer people use, but like it's obviously more expensive.
Yeah. OnePlus is like, we took a picture of your finger.
Yeah.
Here's your phone. Oh goodness.
Yeah, but so I mean, it's that's I'm sure that will be the phone, and we'll probably see it in a couple of months, I would guess, May or June.
Yeah. So well, they've been sticking to their schedule pretty good for the last 2 years, so I think it's due May.
Yeah. Yep. That seems plausible. So,
sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Cody. What were you saying?
I was going to say really quick, since you kind of blew through the pop-up camera, all it takes is like a small grain of sand slipping in there, and that thing is destroyed.
Could be.
You're either going to destroy the mechanism that raises it, or you're going to destroy the lens. Like one way or another, this is a terrible thing. I actually got on Andy Rubin's case when he kind of teased this idea back when there could have been an Essential Phone 2, and it is such a bad design decision to put a camera that actuates up and down. There are so many ways this goes wrong, and you destroy your phone if it does any of those. So you can't take it to a beach. You can't really keep it in your pocket that safely. It's just bad.
So you're saying in the review, I need to open and close it in the sand at a beach.
Yes.
You have to actually throw sand on the phone while you're using it.
Actually, I totally envision. Suddenly, I'm blanking on his name, but the guy that bends and destroys phones on camera.
Zach,
Jerry rig everything.
Yeah.
If he does not immediately take this out to a beach and try that, I will be furious, because that should be number one test on that phone.
I mean, May's beach weather. May could be beach weather.
And I'm now realizing that this, not that OnePlus really cares about waterproofing all that much, but this probably disqualifies waterproofing.
Yeah, and they don't care, which
it doesn't have to, but it's almost certainly does.
It would make it considerably more difficult.
And they didn't want to put a considerable amount of effort to IP rating in the first place.
They claimed last time I talked to them that it would cost $30 more per phone, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, no, they just don't want to deal with the warranty claims.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so we have that, and I think that's the last thing on our list this week. So we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, if anybody out there wants to complain about us, podcast@androidpolice.com is where you can do that. And also make sure that you watch the show live. We do it on Twitch every week. You can subscribe. It's free if you're an Android Prime or not Android, Amazon Prime member. You get a free subscription, and that helps us keep doing the show. So
and we sometimes answer questions. So if you have something if you want to know about,
definitely. So yeah, come and watch the show and do that. And we'll see you next time.
Good night, everybody.